Hi, everybody. Hey. Woo. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm so happy to be here. I realized I've been coming here to give a talk since 2009, which now seems like, in maker movement years is like, prehistoric times. There were like dinosaurs playing with Arduino. So I want to, as usual, I want to give like a quick snapshot of where we are as Arduino, but I want to show you something which is really funny, a bit surreal, which shows you where Arduino has gotten to. So I was in Barcelona in February, and I get into a taxi, and the taxi starts and it stops after 50 meters, and then this guy says, "Wait a second, are you Massimo Banzi from Arduino?" And I'm like, what? Yeah. So he pulls, you will see this guy is going to pull out the book from the Arduino starter kit. And then he showed me that he had a phone and he was watching my videos on YouTube to learn about Arduino while he was waiting for clients, And then he said, I'm making a startup with a friend of mine to make a motorized dolly and all of that. So this was very interesting because the day after I told the story to the deputy mayor of Barcelona, and they were like, whoa, we need to find this guy. So they started to call all the taxi companies to find this guy, Because they thought it was an interesting symbol where so a taxi driver is considered an everyday, so there are taxi drivers with PhD, obviously, but but it's considered like a classic everyday person. So if the everyday person from Barcelona is making a startup while waiting for clients on a taxi, I think it's telling us a lot where the maker movement is going. So in a way, somebody lately defined Arduino as like the Swiss Army knife of the maker community, which is kind of interesting in a way, considering that I technically live in Switzerland, although I fly a lot. And so I don't know exactly where I live anymore. So this is a little graph of Google Trends. I don't know what the hell happened this last July, where there was that kind of dent in the curve. I will find whoever did that. And but in a way, you see, there's an interesting and constant growth. It's slow, but it's happening. So Arduino is a bit like this, just slowly grinding, growing. The community grows. There's over 1.5 million official products, same amount of clones, copies, counterfeit, compatibles, whatever. Also, the website keeps growing. We see now 5 million people, of which 3.3 million people are regular visitors, which means a huge Amazon Web Services bill. But apart from that, it means also there's like a big community of people. And clearly the fact that there are 3 million people coming to the Arduino website and 1.5 million official board means that there is more than the people who use the official Arduino boards are using the Arduino website to come and ask questions, to look up tutorials, get information. So it's becoming really a community for people beyond the ones who use the official Arduino products. And also, I got these interesting stats from the people at Kickstarter. Giulio, are you in the audience? Anyway, on Kickstarter, in the last few years, there's been 160 projects related to Arduino, of which 103 were successful, and they collected 7 million in funding. So if Arduino was an incubator, it's essentially giving away a lot of seed money, in a way. It's enabling people to go and get seed funding from the community. And also we organized this event called the Arduino Day, which was an interesting experiment of doing like a self-organized event. We basically told people, download the PDF for this poster, add your name to it, print it, and invite people to have fun on the 29th of March. And we had 240 events in 59 countries. And also there were like 26 events only in Brazil, which, it's a lot. And in the USA, only 21 events, so really, really bad. So next year, I want to see at least 100. You need to have, there were 27 events in Italy. 27 events only in Italy. Woo! So Costantino organized the Arduino Day in Milan. So that's why it's woo! So also one of the interesting things is now becoming some kind of an industry standard. You can see all these boards that are sort of inspired by Arduino at different levels. But also one of the things I was reflecting is now we have a nice product line where we have basic 8-bit product with a lot of products that are like connected in a way or another, educational, wearable, and then we started to go through, now we approach also 32-bit platforms. So we have three platforms on an ARM architecture of different levels of complexity, and we also collaborated with Intel on an x86 architecture. And it's just a lot of details. So the classic boards, the 8-bit boards, are supported by this Arduino 1.0 IDE, which now, from now on, is basically going to go into maintenance mode. So we're not going to add anything more to it. So now the new official Arduino IDE is the 1.5 point something, which comes out in a few days, which has the feature that you can actually drop in support for different processors, different architectures. And also one of the things that we've started to do is to reduce the friction for the beginner. So one of the things that you will see in the new Arduino 1.7 IDE is this, that now if you get a new Arduino, if you buy an Arduino board or a board that supports the Arduino at Art program, you just say add board, you type the name of the board, this goes to the website and says, okay, in order to support this Cortex-M0 board, you need this compiler, that library, this, and it will just download it automatically. And every time there is an update, it will tell you, you just need to update this library. So this will allow people to avoid having to download 300 megabytes of files just to update one file. And also one of the things that we did, we created an intelligent database of hardware compiler libraries and the interconnection. So library X goes with shield Y. So this is becoming a little bit of a, it's not an app store, but almost. So when you need a library, you will be able to type over there, like I just got this SH whatever 11 sensor. I type and I get all the sensor libraries and I can install it by clicking. There's nothing else I need to, I don't have to find it, I don't have to download it. It does it all automatically. And then you can also update and remove. And so there's some interesting features there. So these are some of the things we're doing to where the Arduino is and the sort of maintenance of Arduino to make it more and more easy to use. So because actually one of the things that we are interested in Arduino, we're more interested in how to make it easy for people to do things. So we're never been interested in like making the most powerful, the most advanced. We're interested in making things that are just easy for people to use. So I have a quick, so I want to tell you a bit something that we're doing now. So we just launched as a beta this Arduino Tray, which is a combination of a Cortex A8 processor. So it's an actual PC with HDMI output, all sorts of peripherals, plus a classic Arduino embedded in the middle. So this means that you can kind of decide where to run your code depending on what you need to do. So you can have a real, like a 5-volt Arduino where you can use all the classic shields, but you can also use the Linux hardware. So what we did this project in collaboration with BeagleBone. So Jason, I want to introduce you to my friend Jason. Who is
Hi, Massimo.
The person behind the BeagleBoard, BeagleBone, along with Gerald and all the other. And so we worked together on this project, and I just want to leave it for ask you to just give a little comment. What was important for me is that when I started working with them, that Jason also on the BeagleBone started to work on this idea of making things easy. So he already was interested in how do we make it easy to use this technology. And so that's why the connection was perfect. I don't know, how do you see this world of like this kind of boards?
Well, I think this is a fantastic collaboration. It's been great working with him. The designers in Italy have just been amazing. So I think that they've created something really fantastic in terms of the experience. But I think we tried to bring something that allows people to get started much quicker, much easier. than other Linux platforms, trying to take all the Linux stuff out of the way, but yet still get all the power that comes from having a computer that's dedicated to whatever you want it to do.
Yeah, in fact, so actually to this point, I want to show you, while we talk, I want to show you a little video. So this is a screen capture of the user experience of using an Arduino Tray. The idea is that we try to really think about the people who don't know how to do anything. So when you plug a USB cable, you get this drive, you double click on the HTML5 and you are in the installation procedure. And it checks if you need drivers or not, and there's a little driver you need in order to kind of get the board to communicate with your computer over the USB. But then, so this is all HTML5 interfaces with JavaScript doing all different tasks, figuring out if your board is ready, so the process was, there's a team of people in Torino, in our office in Torino, working on the whole user experience, and so Jason and Gerald in the
and all of this is replacing what you would typically do is like a download your application off the internet. Here, all this stuff is happening straight off the board itself. They just plug the board in, it shows up as a drive, they click it, and they just follow the instructions that are right there served up by the board itself. So they didn't have to go out to the web and gather anything else, yet they're able to just use their web browser for all their interactions with the hardware.
Yeah, so absolutely. So when you finish the setup, you press that button. That behind the scene, this uploads some code on your board and starts to make that LED change color, so you know that your board is working. And then you get this new IDE. So this is the new Arduino IDE 2.0. It's an HTML5 JavaScript IDE with a tiny Node.js backend and an HTML JavaScript front end, which really tries to get together the experience. So, for example, this is a classic view of the sketchbook and all of that. We're also working on some tools. We're making some comments about how it feels to use one of these Linux boards. Now you're still feeling like a system administrator from, 40 years ago.
Yeah, this definitely gets that system administrator feel out of the way, right? So here you're able to use all the power of it, but you're doing it with all the Arduino experience that you're comfortable with, right? So you're getting into an IDE that looks like the Arduino IDE. It focuses on the tasks that you actually want to do and not all the things that would be a distraction.
Yeah. So we added this feature here, where now the Arduino sketch folder becomes a place where you can store all your project. So you can store a schematic, a layout, you can store documentation in ASCII doc format. And so when you carry around this thing, you can actually look at every single aspect of your project in one place.
And you can see here you're connecting up other boards to it, so you're not just limited to the Leonardo, the Leonardo that's on the board. You can actually attach other hardware and use this as your development environment for attaching to all your Arduinos.
So that menu up there, kind of not very visible, actually allows you to choose where you send your code. So you can write code in the classic Arduino language, but it gets compiled as a Linux process, and it runs on the Linux board as a Linux process. Or you can select and say, I want to run it on the Arduino. You can run it on the Arduino. We have the bridge library that we developed in the past that lets the two processes talk to each other, and you can control the board externally. But one of the things that's happening is also that the IDE shows you can show documentation next to the code. You can actually show tutorials, like video tutorials next to the code. So it becomes, and here you can see we have also, some people like it dark and...
Yeah, and so you certainly have that sort of customization, but you also have a lot of other customization abilities, I guess maybe you're going to talk about as well, because there's abilities to have plugins and to extend the functionality.
Yeah, one of the features of this IDE is that there is this menu called Tools, which at the moment is not that big. But the idea is that if you create some little tools out of JavaScript and you put them in the right folder, they get picked up by the menu. And the idea is that for all the things that people have to do to run their Linux board, there should be like an easy-to-use GUI that you can just click on, and it gets added to your IDE. So managing the board should be something that never, you should use the command line only when something bad happens. That's the general idea for this.
And so you have libraries for doing all the things that you're used to doing with an Arduino, but there's going to be a lot more libraries coming, right? Because now you have all this capability of Linux that you can do that, and you still have all the real-time capability, so it's a nice division of labor between systems, but you're going to have all these additional libraries that you're going to be able to do more things with, like vision and...
Yeah. So actually, one thing I want to mention is that, so Jason, part of the work he did on the Beagle Bone, developed this thing called Bone Script, which is a JavaScript language that looks like Arduino in a way. So you can program your board in JavaScript. So we're also adding support for Bone Script to the IDE. So you will be able to program in the C++ language of Arduino on Linux and on the microcontroller, or you will be able to just run this JavaScript directly on the Linux machine. And so the IDE is just served by the board. So you plug the board into the network, you point your browser, you type a password, and boom, you get an IDE. That's, I mean, you know, at some point, one of the things that I used at MakerCon is this quote from John Lasseter, that our fields don't get finished, they get released. You know, and also in Arduino, sometimes you have this tendency to kind of polish and tweak forever. So at some point, somebody will wake up and say, okay, let's push this thing out. So we said, okay, let's just make it available. And then there's a beta program going on right now. I don't remember when it's over. When is the beta program finishing?
When it's ready.
Yeah, no. No. Whoa, no, remember the quote. So, okay, at some point.
When it's good enough.
So, as an experiment, we decided to sell the beta boards instead of giving them away for free. When we did the Arduino Ide, we gave away 100 boards here at Maker Faire. And basically, 3 people of those 100 actually did some work on it. So we decided that now, you know, maybe it's better if you pay for it, so you're actually motivated to do work. So we put, I don't know, about 60, 70 on the website on Thursday, and in 2 hours they were gone. And, you know, and so people said, oh, nobody's going to pay $200 to have one of those. Well, actually, at least 60 people, they were there with like their finger ready on the OK button to just get one. Okay. So I hope you will, you know, follow what's going to happen with the tray. We're going to show you a lot of cool things that people are doing. And, you know, I'm really glad that we are, you know, finally announcing this thing to the world, because we've been working on it for a long time. And we hope it's going to make life easy for a lot of people.
I think the wait's going to be worth it. It's a really sweet product.
Thank you. Thank you. So now I have one last thing I want to talk about, which is actually quite, so thanks, Jason. Okay. Applause is for you. So I have one quick thing. So about the IDE is something that you can expect this IDE to be delivered as an embedded IDE, so in the board, online. So we're going to put this on the website, so you can code on the website. And we're going to put this as a desktop application, so you can download it. And also, we're working on this online compiler, which at the beginning won't be available to everybody, but it will be an online service that lets you compile Arduino code. And this is useful for things like the work that we've been doing with Tembu. So I'm going to show you this code generator that you get on the Tembu website. So you know, if you go to Tembu, you look for devices, you click on Yun, you say, I have a light sensor, click. I want to make a phone call when the light sensor changes value. And so here I say, you know, the sensor is now more than 400. I put the phone number. I say what I want the server to say when the phone call completes. And then I say, when somebody presses 1, turn on the light and activate the pin. So you choose your pins over there. You press another button, and you get the code to cut and paste in your Arduino. So you can build incredibly complex IoT applications by writing 4 or 5 lines of code in Arduino. So, you know, the Tembu people are at our booth. You should check out, because they have another innovation on top of what you see here, which they call the Iot Mode, which is really cool. So that online compiler will allow people to not to go through this step, but just press a button and push their code to their Arduino over the network. So you can create like a crazy IoT application by clicking on a few screens and pressing a button. I think it's a pretty cool thing. So again, you know, Tembu has been really cool in kind of following up on our sort of idea of making it easy for people to do projects, and you should check it out. So I wanted to now talk about one last thing that we launched. We announced on Thursday. So we have this new Arduino Zero, which I think is pretty amazing. And so this is a an Arduino board using a Cortex M0 processor. So it's an ARM processor, one of the small, very sort of new and cool ARM processor. And it's also the first Arduino to come with a debugger on board. So to talk about this project, I want to invite on the stage Reza Karunian, who is the vice president of Atmel, because Atmel helped us a lot on this project. So,
thank you.
Thank you. So, well, it was very interesting because we wanted to give this Cortex M0 technology to the community because people have asked for it. Arduino didn't really have all the bandwidth to work on it, so we talked to Atmel, and Atmel said, no worries, we can do it. So do you want to talk a little bit of how the project sort of happened and, you know?
So I think it's important to say, can you hear me well?
Yeah, good.
I think it's important to say that we have been a great partner with Arduino for many years. Our AVR technology is fueling a lot of your boards.
Yeah.
And just very recently, we were talking to Massimo and Arduino about creating a more powerful platform for the maker community and definitely to Arduino. So within 3 months, we took one of our most recent products that we announced, which was our SAM D21, our 32-bit platform. And our engineers, within 3 months, sailed through putting this board together. And I should say, these are the same engineers that I always have to push very hard to pull in the schedule. In this case, they did it much faster than I thought they would do it. So we finished it.
Because it's Arduino, everybody loves it.
It's ready to go. Yeah, we love it. We love this project.
So I can tell you, I was on the phone with Reza and Steve in mid-February, and we said, go ahead. And then in May, the hardware was there, and the software is running. So now we're going to start the beta program. So I think it's important because this processor is the type of processor that people have been asking for a long time. The Cortex M0 is going to change the way people do IoT on small devices. And also for Arduino, this is the first board that comes with an embedded debugger, which is again something that Atmel sort of made available to us. That little chip over there contains a JTAG debugger. So you can plug a cable, is now already compatible with OpenOCD 0.8, works out of the box. You can debug your code, and we will add the debug capability to the Arduino IDE. So thank you. I mean, I don't know, it's been really great. Actually, we have another guest I want to call on the stage, Simon, who is the CEO of ARM. So, I think it's...
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So,
everyone.
So, I think it's nice when we do projects to actually bring on stage the people behind the companies that you always hear about. So ARM as a CEO who is actually a technical, so you're an engineer by training. No?
I was originally an engineer, yeah. In fact, I was very interested when you were talking about debug on that because in my early days in ARM, I worked on putting some debug capability into our processors so that people could put them in these tiny little chips and actually be able to see what was going on inside.
Yeah. So, well, we have a lot of feedback from people about the Cortex M0 Plus. I mean, is it also something that you see from the market, like people want to use it, they're into it?
Absolutely. I mean, when we introduced the Cortex M series of processors specifically so that very low cost, highly integrated microcontrollers could be built, and we could have all the power and benefits of a 32-bit processor in these really low-cost packages. And it's great to see boards like this, being built in a very low-cost way and enabling people to go and experiment with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you. So this is what we've been up to, and so I want to again thank Atmel for being very responsive and helping us a lot. And now I think, do we have like a couple of minutes for questions if people want? I mean, if you want, you can stay on stage or you can go as you like. So if somebody has some questions for us, we're here for another couple of minutes. I know that as soon as I step off the stage, 100 people will jump on me and ask me questions. With Arduino, oh wow, it's kind of hard now because they're like, hundreds of thousands of projects. It's kind of like, I see a lot of interesting projects. You have like silly projects to people that are making, medical instruments based on Arduino so that they can do scientific research, low cost. You know, or a lot of the educational stuff. You know, I think it's important that people have been able to teach digital electronics, programming, you know, with Arduino. So, for example, I think this board, to me, it's important because, you know, I think this is going to put this architecture, the Cortex M0, in the hand of a bunch of people. They're going to really understand what's the power of this thing. So I think that kind of educational value make it very easy, as easy as possible for people to jump on this kind of product. I think it's important. This processor is a Cortex M0. So we called it Arduino Zero. Because the others are uno, due, tre, which in Italian is like 1, 2, 3. And then we choose Zero. I don't know, I like the idea that it was like a super tiny microcontroller with a lot of power. You know, and
this is the smallest processor we make, so 0 is the right number for it.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Simon, Reza, Jason. Thank you, everybody.